You're listening to the Results Driven Organizations podcast with Dr. Taunya Lowe, a podcast of curated conversations with C-suite leaders and those who support organizational growth and development. Get ready for inspiring interviews, educational lessons, and thought-provoking discussions that will challenge you to execute something new and innovative that will drive results in your organization. And now, here's Dr. Taunya Lowe.
Hello, you're listening to the Results Driven Organizations podcast with Dr. Taunya Lowe, using my results driven philosophy of strategy, leadership, teams, and customer experiences. I help organizations develop their best kept secret, their human capital. This podcast is designed to expand the conversation with C-suite leaders and those who support organizational growth and development, and what it really takes to create, develop, and maintain results-driven and high-performing organizations. Did you know that there are 5 generations in most workplaces today? Well, there are, and they include the traditionalists, those born before 1946. And you may be thinking, the traditionalists, wow, they're pretty wise. We're going to say they're pretty wise. Well, yes, actually, those are the folks they may be in government, Congress. They're the folks that are writing the policies and making decisions and on boards. So yes, the traditionalists are alive and well in many workplaces today. And then you have the baby boomers. They're born between 1946 and 1964, and they've not all retired. They're still in the workplace because they've got a lot to say. And then you've got my favorite generation, Gen X, born between 1965 and 1980. And guess what? We are making waves. We are still here. We are not the lost generation. And then there are millennials born between 1981 and 1996. And so I'm going to tell you, for a while, millennials were getting a bad rap. But I'm telling you, millennials, I think, really changed. They changed the voice of the workplace. They made us start thinking about work and work-life balance in a different way. So I oftentimes say, I want to come back as a millennial because I love millennials. And then there's the Gen Zers born after 1996. And have I told you, if you haven't figured it out yet, they are turning the workplace upside down. They communicate differently. They think differently. Their values are different. But here's the thing. Each generation has value. If you are a leader in an organization, you may be saying, oh my God, those millennials, those Gen Xers, those Gen Zers, they're driving me crazy. And it's only because you just haven't tapped into what it takes to lead them and manage them and develop them effectively. Now, as I was saying, each generation adds value to the workplace, and each generation, I believe, allows those who were there before they arrived to make some changes in the way they grow, they communicate, and they lead. You've got different attitudes, different values, different characteristics, and all these differences can create conflicts in the workplace. And so in today's rapidly evolving workplace, right? Because the workplace we think about how much the workplace has changed from 2020 during the pandemic years, where we probably lost a couple of we didn't know what day it was, what time it was. So from the pandemic era to where we are now, the workplace is changing constantly right before our eyes. It can be one way on Monday, and on that next Monday, it's very different. And what we fail to realize is that we're really talking about diversity. We're really talking about, not that it's a buzzword, because I believe that a lot of people are thinking, diversity is such a buzzword. But we're talking about one of the main pieces of diversity, which is generational differences. And so one of the most significant dimensions of diversity that organizations must learn to navigate is balancing the varying generations in the workplace. With multiple generations coexisting in today's society, like I said, from traditionalists to Gen Zers, effective leadership is going to require a deep understanding of the unique characteristics, the preferences, the values, the communication styles of each generation. Now, you may be a leader thinking, this is too much. It's just too much. If they only do what I tell them to do, it'll be all right. Well, I want you to think back to when you were in the early part of your career. Did you do what you were just told to do? And was it all right? Did you ask questions? Did you have ideas that could make things different? Well, the generations that are not your generation have the same thing. But here's the thing. No one wants to develop people. We hire them based on the schools they went to, based on their grades, based on their GPA, how they did in the interview. But we fail to accept the reality is that they need developing. They've not been in your organization before. They don't understand. There was never a class on office politics. I wish that there were. I think I'm gonna start doing some workshops, but I digress. These folks, they have no idea of how the workplace works, and they show up professionally immature with their classroom knowledge. And this is where you come in. You have to develop them as a leader. And so I want to talk about, I did this talk for an organization, a nonprofit organization, a few months ago. And I thought it was important to talk about here on the podcast because I keep hearing about these generational challenges. So we're in the midst of upskilling and reskilling. That hasn't changed. But I believe that one of the largest upskills for leaders today, especially boomers and Gen Xers and maybe some Gen Zers, is understanding how to lead and develop a multi-generational workforce. It is essential to being a results-driven organization. So I want to give you 6 reasons why you need to develop your skill set around this. The first one is maximizing talent potential. Like I mentioned, each generation brings a distinct set of skills, experiences, and perspectives to the table. As a manager, or by developing managers who understand and appreciate differences, right? So it's not just differences around the generational skill set, but it's differences in general. If I'm a manager and I appreciate different, right? I'm not offended by different. I'm not stressed out by different. I see different as an opportunity for myself to grow as a leader. Then if that's you, you're going to do well with this. Effective leaders recognize the value of leveraging strengths of each generation, whether it's harnessing the wisdom and the experience of the baby boomer or the tech savvy nature of millennials and the Gen Zers. And Gen Zers also bring an entrepreneurial spirit. And when it shows up in the workplace, we call that entrepreneur. And so combining all of these skills and talents and mindsets is really the secret sauce. And so as a manager, you have to understand how to inspire greater collaboration, creativity, innovation, all of these things amongst your teams. So here's the deal. Don't get caught up in the different. Think about, how do I take this different and utilize it for the benefit of the team? Also, think about not shutting down the talent, but how do you nurture or harness the talent? I was talking with the CEO last year, and I remember him saying that he'd been in the workplace for a very long time. He had been in that organization for a long time. And as he saw people coming in, he saw their talents, but they oftentimes, and this was the word he used, needed harnessing, slowing it down. Yes, you graduated with 4.0. Yes, you graduated as the valedictorian. But you don't know how to make this organization, how to operate within these constraints. And so he would take these really smart, bright, I'm going to change the world in your organization in the first 90-day people, and he really walked them through, this is what it means to make decisions in this workplace. Some decisions are going to be made quickly, some will not. And this is how you move beyond it and not flip over the apple cart, if you will, but how to operate in an organization that is larger from you. Now, that was a lot, but I thought it was really important here. When we look at maximizing talent potential, sometimes as leaders, we can become very overwhelmed with the ideas and the energy that someone from a different generation may bring to the table. And instead of harnessing it, and we shut it down. We don't do that here. You can't do that here. I don't know who you think you are. Like, I need you to get rid of all of that. That is not going to help in the development phase. And so then that leads me to the second thing, is developing communication, bridging communication gaps. Communication is big for all of us. I think we never really understand, we're always learning how to communicate. Generational differences in communication styles can oftentimes, many times, lead to misunderstanding. You've got the baby boomers or the traditionalists who they're going to pick up the phone. They're going to come and sit down and talk to you. While millennials and some Gen Zers, they may prefer digital communication, whether it's text messages, email, or instant messaging. And so where do we create the balance between communication styles, understanding, uh, but then also teaching the value of the face-to-face, teaching the value of picking up the telephone, teaching the value of relationship building. To me, communication is about developing relationships. So effective managers, you may understand the preferences that each generation has, but you also need to understand by bridging communication gaps and fostering open dialogue, you can create a more cohesive, harmonious work environment where everyone feels heard and understood. Because at the end of the day, that's all we want. We want to be heard and we want to be understood. And I know there's somebody saying, but there are some people, that's all they want to just be heard, heard, heard. They just want to yap, yap, yap. And guess what? I get it. That's in every generation. I promise you. It may be you. You may be that person. But as a manager, you have to balance that communication for better dialogue, for better relationship building, for better communication. So number 3, nurture mentoring and knowledge transfer. Okay, look, I came from government. I worked in government for almost 10 years. And when I tell you people, they come into government when they're like right out of high school and they know a lot and they covet the information. They covet the data. They don't want to share it. And then they leave. And then people are having to start all over again. I don't know. Maybe that's my experience. If you can relate, just say I can relate wherever you're listening to this podcast. One of the most significant benefits of having multiple generations in the workplace is the opportunity for mentorship and knowledge transfer. Baby boomers, again, have a wealth of experience. They've been in the workplace longer than us, and they can serve as invaluable mentors to other generations, passing down wisdom and insights gained over the decades. But you're going to have to create an opportunity for that to take place. So instead of saying, creating these silos in these division of the generations, you can create opportunities where people can have conversations and really try to close the generation gap through mentorship. Yeah. You want to close the generation gap through mentorship and knowledge transfer. I think that, again, is the secret sauce. So when we think about effective mentorship, it's going to require skilled managers who can facilitate meaningful connections and create opportunities for knowledge exchange. What is important information that Bob, who's on short timers, he's retiring in 12 to 18 months, what information does he need that would be valuable to someone just coming into the organization? Someone that maybe they're not a Gen Zer, maybe they're not green in the workplace, but that they could benefit from this wisdom. I don't believe that organizations overall harness the wisdom that's within the organization. So managers, leaders, develop a way to create this intergenerational learning. And I can guarantee you that you'll be so glad that you did. Number 4, enhancing employee and retention. That's not just human resources job. That's everyone's job. Employees are more likely to feel engaged and motivated when they believe that leadership understands and appreciates their unique needs and preferences. Not, well, why don't you come to the office social hour? Well, that might not be that person's thing. And it should be okay. For younger generations, opportunity for growth and development and meaningful work are the things that drive their engagement and retention. If they have a way to feel involved and they are a part of the process and they can contribute to the process, that's going to be gravy for them. But if you're trying to put them into an old model or the model that you grew up in. When I say grew up, in your career, it's going to clash. And if you really, really think about it, many of us did things in our career because we were told by those older than us that those were the things that we needed to do. But sometimes they worked and sometimes they worked against us. So I think we're in a place where we can create some new opportunities for, again, conversation, engagement, and retention while respecting the unique needs that people have as well as their preferences. Some folks just want to come to work, drink their water, and mind their business. And that's okay. And some people want to be the social butterfly of the office, and that's okay too. I think each individual has to find for themselves, what is it going to take to create the relationships needed for me to have the career that I want to have. I can't share these things without saying that. People do business, people hire, people promote, people they know, like, and trust. And so if you're young in your career and you have an idea of how things should be done, I will promise you it doesn't matter what generation you're in, relationships still matter. Building effective relationships will never go out of style. So, yeah, so that's all I'm gonna say about that. So number 5, adapting to changing work styles and preferences. We've gone from everybody's working. No. We've gone from nobody can work from home to everybody's working from home to a hybrid workplace, flexible scheduling. It's just all so different now, right? So the rise of remote work, flexible scheduling, digital collaboration tools has transformed our workplaces. And for some, it poses challenges and opportunities for managers leading multi-generational teams. Millennials and Gen Z in particular value flexibility and work-life balance. I told you that before. While baby boomers prefer more traditional work arrangements. They want to come to the office, they want to park in their parking space, they want to work from 9 to 5, maybe 7, and they're good. Effective managers understand the importance of flexibility and adaptability in today's rapidly changing landscape. And so as a leader, as a manager, you have to be all things to all people. You have to look at what is it going to take for me to get the best out of my team, out of my employees. What is it going to take? Is it going to take me embracing flexibility and innovation? Is it going to take me creating? Is that what it's going to take to create a dynamic and inclusive work environment where every generation can thrive? And so if you need some help on that, if you're struggling around that, give us a call. We can help you. We've been helping some organizations with that because we're seeing that as a big challenge as we're working with upskilling and reskilling companies. And then finally, driving organizational agility and innovation. One of the things that really, as I go into companies, I see that is a huge time waster is when there's conflict. Conflict on teams, conflict through the generations, people not understanding what their jobs are, people who are being led by people who haven't been developed. All of these things slow down your agility. It's like carrying a heavy weight on your back. So in today's fast-paced, competitive environment, organizational agility and innovation are critical for a results-driven organization. Effective leadership plays a pivotal role in driving agility, innovation through empowering your employees to adapt quickly to change, experiment with new ideas, take calculated risk, understanding that it's okay to mess up. It's okay to make mistakes, because in doing this, you're teaching them to become critical thinkers, which is one of the upskill, reskill skills of the future, is that people don't know how to think critically. So managers who understand the unique strengths and perspectives of each generation harness these skills collectively, and it ends up creating a really viable team. It's almost like a well-oiled machine that people are working together. They value each other. They are creative. They're driving innovation. They're staying ahead of the curve. By fostering a culture of continuous learning, experimentation, and collaboration, you cannot win. Organizations position themselves. You cannot win. You can't lose. You can't lose. Organizations can position themselves as leaders in their industry and thrive in the face of uncertainty when you can move and adapt quickly. Now, you may be thinking, I'm not responsible for my organization. I'm only responsible for my team. And when I go into companies, and that's what I tell them, if you have the best team in the organization, if every leader, manager can say, my team is going to be the best team in the organization, and this is what I'm doing to make that happen, guess what? You do have an effect on the organization, the overall organization. So by developing managers to lead a multi-generational workforce, it's essential for organizations seeking to maximize talent, bridge communication gaps, nurture mentorship and knowledge transfer, investing in the development of leaders who understand and appreciate the unique characteristics of each generation will definitely help you to become a results-driven organization. That's all I got. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please visit the show notes page where you can download our free gift to you, a list of what leaders are reading. We believe that leaders are readers.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Results Driven Organizations Podcast with Dr. Taunya Lowe. Be sure to review the show notes for the resources mentioned, and don't forget to grab your free gift available at freegiftfromtanya.com. Until next time.